It's amazing. This is it. The final day, STS 349, 2020. We have a very special guest on our last day of school, taking a time out from his busy schedule to join us, the famous Umru, producer of one of the best tracks of the year, according to NPR. And he's going to explain that track to us and answer your questions. I believe that's what he's going to do. Is that what you're going to do?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, begin. And he's 1 hour,
are we
and he's got
waiting?
to leave, so he's going to talk for like 35 minutes and then answer your questions.
Are we waiting for any other people?
They can join now.
Okay.
I'm not answering any of your questions until later. Final project is due when you're done with it. Just turn it in.
All right. Okay. Well, yeah, this is like the project file in Ableton for my remix of ericdoa's "Moving Like a Zombie." And yeah, NPR for some reason decided that this was one of the best songs of the year, which is crazy. Like this remix specifically. Um, so yeah, I was just gonna go through the project file and kind of show stuff for, yeah, I'll just like kind of do that first for a bit, like kind of go through what I did, and then yeah, obviously for the end of the time I can just kind of answer questions. Um, yeah, it's basically, so yeah, the original song is like, I don't know, a minute and a half long, and this remix is like over 7 minutes long. And I made it for a Halloween show I was playing just because the song is about zombies. But it was like not a real show, obviously a live stream show. But it's also just like a very kind of well-known underground SoundCloud hyperpop classic at this point. And so it's just kind of thought it would be an iconic song to remix. And then the reason it's so long is just because I started asking a lot of different vocalists to kind of record, new verses on it. And so that's what this ended up including. I just asked more and more people, and all these people sent me verses that I just kind of added in. And like this challenge was just kind of making the song feel interesting for that long, which is really fun. And so, yeah, even though like I tried to do that, it's definitely a very simple beat. I just kind of swap out different sounds over the course of the song to kind of keep it feeling different each verse. So yeah, I don't know the best way to go through it. Probably, I would play the whole song first, but it's so long that I might as well just start going through it. I could start with, yeah, the sounds in the beginning. We have this like contact piano, very basic sound, which is just a contact piano. Sure. And it just has a compressor on it. I was just kind of layering a bunch of different sounds. This is, I think, also from that same piano sound, but I froze it for some reason, maybe so I could pitch the file. Or no, I don't even do anything to it for some reason. I think I also froze and like bounced a lot of things to audio just so it would take less processing power to run all these plugins. And then there's this kind of synth melody sound, just in a reactor synth called Contour. And yeah, a lot of the time I was like, it's the same kind of melody throughout the whole song. And so the way I was changing it up a lot is just by automating these different kind of filters and like distortions inside the plugin. So I'm automating, yeah, it's just these knobs called color, which are basically like different things in the preset. So this is all like one preset, but obviously it sounds different throughout the song. And yeah, this one's just a filter cutoff that I'm also automating all the way through the song. You can see it's like just different in each part rather than like copy and pasting stuff over. I was just doing like slightly different things each time I brought something back, just to kind of have it change throughout the really long song. This track is like a contact, like electric guitar patch, which is like sounds like a guitar player. I'm just kind of layering it in a little bit to give it like a real instrument type sound for a little bit of it. And later in the song, I'm pitching that up and kind of chopping it. That's the reason this one is like exported into audio. Just so I could pitch it up and kind of edit the audio. Someone's playing just like a tone out of, I think Liam O'Driscoll is playing like just, yeah, thank you. Sorry, yeah, I mean, this is maybe not that interesting to go through every sound because they really are just basic sounds layered together. But this one's very subtle, but it's this kind of whistling sound coming out of Omnisphere, which is not opening for some reason. Yeah, my thing is just freezing. Okay, here it is. Yeah, it's just like a whistle, like sample of a sound. I don't even know if you can see the plugin windows when I open them. Can you guys see these?
Yeah.
Do they show up?
We can see it. It's all
Okay, cool. Yeah, that one has an interesting plugin on it. It has this manipulator plugin on it, and I'm shifting the format down. It's meant for vocals, but I'm just kind of putting it on this sound. If I turn it off, it sounds like. Oh, yeah, it's not even on all the time, but when it's on, it just gives it this weird glitchy sound because it's meant for like only one tone at a time, but when there's all this reverb and stuff, it's detecting a bunch of different tones, so it kind of just messes up and sounds kind of cool. It's also got isotope trash on it, which is like distortion, and then a compressor, and then this gatekeeper plugin, which is like a trance like gate that just mutes and unmutes the audio at like, you know, in a rhythm. So you can hear that, and then it's panning back and forth really hard with auto pan in Ableton. And then this is kind of one of the main sounds in the song is this synth playing these chords. And yeah, this is a pretty interesting sound because it has this really crazy effect that's actually different every single time it plays, which is interesting because I exported it multiple times and like it was always different because I never froze it. But yeah, it's another synth in Reactor called Razor. But the original sound just sounds like, Jesus, there's so much stuff on here. Sounds like that, pretty normal. And then it has this contour effects chain. This is something actually my friend made for me who knows how to use Reactor better. So I've ended up using this a lot recently, but it's this synth plugin, but my friend Guppy, who's also a producer you may know, just figured out how to get these effects at the bottom of the synth as like audio effects, which is just because I really like them. And I'm using just the flanger in there. It just has a very like specific sound. And you can hear it's very like metallic. And it's very kind of random, just like you can't tell what tone it's going to make because I have the feedback of the flanger really high, which means it just kind of rings out really metallically. And I have that mixed with, this is what's so like fun about Ableton is you can just make huge chains of effects like this. And like, this is an effect rack, which has like a chain that's just the dry signal coming from the synth, and then another chain that is the full, that like flanger effect. And so you can mix them here with these levels. And so that gives you kind of more control because you can just make endless chains of like different effects and mix them however you want. Yeah, I've just got an EQ, which I think is just filtering out sometimes. Yeah, just doing like a low pass filter. And then I have isotope trash again. I use all the same plugins on everything. So this is like a distortion plugin. Bless you. Trash is a really fun distortion plugin that also has like this little convolution reverb in it and like a compressor. And it's kind of like an all-in-one, just kind of sound mangling plugin. I'm automating this mix of it throughout the song. Sometimes it's like completely off, sometimes it's on or halfway through. And just what's cool about that is it has that really strong compressor in it. So it takes those metallic ringing sounds from the flanger and just really brings them out. So it just has endless like weird combinations of these sounds where it's not really the right note or anything. It just rings out really long. So I just love stuff like that. It just kind of keeps it interesting by just always being different. And obviously it's also distorting it a lot. I have this R bass waves plugin on it, which is like it's meant for like live bass to like give it more sub and low end, but it's kind of fun to just put on sounds that don't necessarily have bass and see what it does. So it just gives it a lot of low end. It just ends up sounding good. I have this plugin Spiff on it. I'm using like more plugins than I usually do. Like I feel like I'm not usually using all this stuff, but for this specific sound, they just kind of worked. This is like a transient shaper that lets you shape the transients in different frequencies. Again, like I'm not even really paying attention to what it's doing so much. I probably just loaded it up and turned it up, and it just makes the transients sharper. So it's more, has more attack. So on top of all of its like really dense production, it kind of stands out more. And then there's also a saturator on here, just a little bit of the Ableton saturator, making it even louder subtly. And then there's also a Fab Filter EQ. I just kind of like this one slightly more sometimes for cutting out the low end, because sometimes the Ableton one isn't as good at that, and just cutting out the really low sub frequencies so that the actual bass of the song doesn't have anything else in the way. But I have that automated on and off, so I think when the bass isn't playing, I'm using this as the bass, like the R bass thing, just giving it a lot of low end, but then I'm turning that off whenever there's another bass sound playing. Okay, yeah, I should get through this stuff a bit faster, but yeah, there's just like a ton of different sounds kind of layered and coming in and out throughout the song just to kind of keep it interesting. This one's another like really simple synth sound. All I have is like the filter here and also this Ableton EQ kind of automating up and down throughout the song. And then I have that same melody playing on like a sampled bell sound with that exact same flanger effect on it. Yeah, I'm just kind of switching back and forth between all these different sounds throughout the song. Yeah, this sound is just like the tag from the original song. This is kind of like recognizable, so I thought I'd leave it in very subtly. Yeah, okay, so that's all the melodic stuff. I'll show the bass sound as well, and then the drums real quick. So that I have this like long sustained bass, also in that same exact reactor synth. I like using a lot of the same synths just in one song because like it'll sound kind of pretty consistent, even though some of these are different presets. They all have kind of a similar sound. This one's just very kind of cinematic, epic sounding sustained bass, and then I have this 808 bass that plays with the drums later on. It's also very distorted. And it's just an 808 sample with, Jesus, okay, it's got this multi-band dynamics, which is just a multi-band compressor, and it's basically just turning up the low end even more. And then another Ableton saturators. These Ableton saturators are so nice for just like making things very thick and distorted. I'm using the Ableton tuner to make sure the 808 is in tune, which it actually isn't quite in tune, I guess. I'm not know. And then I have this glue compressor from Ableton also on like a bass preset, which I definitely like to use on basically everything in the bass, just to like get it as thick and like compressed as possible.
So do you tune this down at all? If it's out of tune, are you adjusting it somewhere? Or just
I mean, I think I did adjust it. The only reason I would have put this tuner on would be to check. Because obviously, yes, it's a little bit out of tune still, but I guess I was fixing it. It's a sample, it's an 808 sample, so it's like possible that those just aren't in tune. You can see I have it tuned, you know, the root to A, because I guess the sample is A, not C, and then it is detuned -7 cents. So I just had to fix it because like the actual sample wasn't in key with anything. It's interesting, this entire song was not in a key, it was like in between keys. And I had to, because I think the original thing was recorded at one speed and then they just sped the entire file up. And so I had to actually adjust. If I look at the acapella of the song, it is up two semitones and like, oh no, I guess it's not. I don't. I remember I had to detune like one of these somehow. I can't remember exactly what the problem was, but like it's a weird song because it's like the acapella isn't in the same that I got isn't in the same key as the like final song that got released because they pitched it up like just after they did the entire song. But yeah, that's the bass sound, and I think I have one more kind of sustained bass sound that comes in later just to have something different. And yeah, a lot of these sounds I didn't even make for this project. I just, you can see I have this like instrument rack pre-made that obviously you can save them over here in your instruments. I have a lot of things just saved that I'll use again, or you can drag stuff in from your other projects. It's a really fun like Ableton thing that most other DAWs don't have. You can just go to put your folder of projects on the side here, and then you can open one and drag in any of the tracks just into your project, which is really fun. I do that a lot. It's just reuse sounds that I've worked on earlier. Again, this sound has like so much processing on it that it doesn't really need, but that's usually the way I work making these sounds. I'll just keep, rather than like doing it in the smartest way, because Ableton lets you, I'll just drag on more and more stuff until I like how it sounds. Especially if it's a sound I made like years ago and it's just like, oh, now I use this other fun plugin and just put it on the end and see how it sounds. But yeah, I have an instrument rack with this sound just because I use it so much. It's just like a basic like free-space sound. I have, it's in Serum, but it's a very simple sound, just like saw waves. Oh, so my my license has expired because I don't have Splice open. I have a Splice spread to own Serum. Anyway, yeah, I just have these filters automating on it. It's very simple. I'm automating both the filter inside Serum and this EQ filter afterwards because the Serum has these effects in it. I can't even show it because Splice isn't running. It's really annoying. Yeah, you can rent to own plugins through Splice, and even though I own Serum now, it still has to have Splice open for the license to work. Anyway, it's not a huge deal if I can't show it to you, but yeah, it basically has like a distortion in the Serum part of it. So putting this filter afterwards helps me have more control over like just how it sounds. That has, yeah, this same like bass glue compressor on it, and then just way too many saturators and compressors just to like mess it up, and trash as well, the same exact plugins again, like this distortion.
Why would
And
you
yeah,
have two saturators in a row
oh
and
no,
dynamic, you know?
it doesn't make any sense. Like it was just like at some point, I know this is like a saved rack, but like at some point I was just messing with it, it was just adding stuff, and I really don't know why. Like there's, I mean, basically it was like I like the saturator here, but then I wanted it to feel more compressed, and then it was like after that, I don't know. I really don't have a good explanation for that. I mean, they have slightly different settings, but again, it's just like instead of, yeah, like there's no logic to it. It's just kind of messing with it until I like how it sounds. And it also has that RBass plugin on it, which just adds more kind of sub low end after you've distorted it a lot. Sometimes that helps to kind of bring it back. I mean, it's basically, I think it's just kind of an EQ, but it has a very specific sound to it. Yeah, and there's that, and I think there's one more bass sound somewhere in the project, but yeah, I mean, that's basically it. Yeah, there's this one, which is just another alternate kind of 808 sound. Oh yeah, this one's kind of fun. It's made in Massive. It's just a very simple kind of sine wave like laser sound just by automating the pitch with an envelope. And then this one has a really strong saturator on it. And then also has this erosion Ableton plugin in it, which is really fun. If I turn it off, you'll hear that's the sound. And with erosion, it adds this like basically it's just adding noise, and you can pick which frequency the noise is at. But like kind of, yeah, I don't even know how it's adding it in, but it you know, it has noise based on the level of the sound, so it just makes it sound really gritty, kind of mixed in with everything. And that also just has a bit of a compressor on it, and that same RBass plugin, and then this final glue compressor. I end up just putting the same stuff on a lot of things just to kind of have them sound somewhat similar. I have this reverse of that sound playing here as just an audio file. So I just recorded the output of this channel onto this new channel so I could reverse the clip. And that ends up just kind of, that builds into the sound to give it like a cool little reverse effect in a few spots. Like this. So these are obviously like all very loud and distorted sounds, but it's kind of the vibe of the song. It ends up working well together. And yeah, the drums as well, I can kind of go through. I don't need to go through every single sound, but here I've got a group for the drums, just called drums. And all that's on there is another one of these Ableton glue compressors, and it's just a preset for kind of parallel compression. You can see it's at 50%. So if it's 100%, it's like too compressed. It's like, you know, very heavily compressed. You can see this meter go. It's super heavy compression, but I have it down to 50% mixed with the dry signal. So it gives it a nice kind of cohesiveness without totally destroying it. But yeah, I can just place all the sounds really quickly. This is just a drum rack playing the kick. I basically do this for the kick just because that's one sound I feel like I'm often switching out the original sample on. So if you do it in MIDI, it's easy to switch it out, even though I do most of my other drums as like audio clips. This is a very weird sound. I put a flanger on the kick, which is generally you'd think a terrible idea, and it might be a bad idea because it's literally like kind of phasing out the frequencies. But what's cool about the Ableton flanger is it has this high pass, so you can actually make it kind of not work on the very low frequencies. So it ends up just giving it this weird high effect on the higher frequencies. Obviously, it's also very distorted and stuff, but it layers nicely with the bass.
Let's hear it without that filter, like with too much flanger to compare.
Like you might not hear too much over Zoom, but here's it. That's off. You can hear the very sub end of it is wider, and it's different each time because the flanger is automating. But if you move this high pass up to like 100, it's just the high click of it that's getting like moved around the stereo space, and the very low end is still mono, which is a really nice kind of knob to have on the flanger. And I think the main reason I did that is because the bass sound I have is also a little bit like kind of wide with the trash plugin on it, so they sound kind of nice together. Yeah, and then yeah, the other drums are all kind of audio clips. This one is like a little sample of the original song, kind of used as a little tonal sound on the snare. I use this drum bus a lot, which is basically a transient shaper and a lot of other stuff. Instead of using it as a bus, I do just put it on individual tracks and use this transient knob all the way down. So if I turn it up, it makes the transients longer. If I turn it down, it makes them sharper. It's pretty subtle on this one, but it's a nice sound to make drums kind of sound, or sounds that literally aren't drums to sound more like drums, because it gives them a more of a transient, because that sound is just like a tonal thing. Got these, this is the hi-hat loop from my own sample pack, which is on Splice, but I obviously still use all those sounds all the time, just kind of cut up to be simpler than the original loop there. It has this Mobius filter plugin, which is like a phaser that's always going up rather than going up and down like a normal phaser, and it just gives it a nice width to these hi-hats. If I turn it off, you'll see they're more even sounding. This makes them kind of move around. I have this snare also from my own sample pack. Very short, like weird snare, but I liked it for this song. Also has that drum bus on it. The drum bus also has like this little crunch and drive knobs. There's like distortion that makes it a little louder. Okay. The project's running very slowly for me while sharing sounds, so bear with me. I have this other snare that comes in for part of the song. Again, I'm kind of swapping these sounds in and out throughout the song to make changes. This is like a classic like SoundCloud metallic hitting snare, but again, I didn't make it in this project. It's just like a sound I had saved. I have this little rim shot that plays with the snares. I think this is actually made with like the end of this normal snare I had. You can see I just like cut off the beginning of the sound with that, and it's just playing this really tiny little click. And also has that same Mobius filter effect on it. Got an open hi-hat. the sounds themselves are all very simple. This one's just interesting because it has this frequency shifter on it, which is literally just automating the volume really fast at this frequency. I have this little rack that actually I didn't make. My friend made this little rack that just like automates both the. This is like another cool Ableton thing, right? So it's moving this frequency and the dry wet with one knob. So you can, it's just like I don't even use that many of these kinds of racks anymore, but like it is like a really useful little way to just build these tools for things that you use often. And literally the reason I'm doing that on this sound is to actually make it sound like it's more distorted and kind of clipping with all the drums than it really is, because I play it on top of the kick. And like a lot of kind of, modern like rap production has these like really clipping drums, and it's almost like I don't even want to do that myself, but putting this effect on the sounds that usually get affected by like an 808 and a hi-hat playing at the same time, it kind of gives that effect without even actually doing it. I don't know. You can't barely even hear it, but it's like a fun thing to just add stuff like that. I have for part of the song, I think I have this break beat come in as like a build just later on in the song. Kind of breakbeat sample, and it also has that same flanger on it just to make it sound really, really weird, and it filters in just to add like a new sound for part of it. Definitely always fun to use like real drum recordings in the mix with these really, synthetic drum sounds. I have this like just very short clap that comes in later on instead of the snare, or on top of the snare, I guess. No effect even on it, just a clap. And all these sounds are kind of coming in and out, so like it stays interesting. What's this? So that's like a breath from the acapella that I thought would be a cool sound to use for the drums, but it only comes in this one section. Again, super subtle, but it's like from the acapella, so it's kind of fun to take bits of the song and use them as drums. And it has just a reverb on it to make it wider, really short reverb. I have these kind of just effect like white noise risers and stuff. Just a sample.
How did you decide what parts of the song to use as drums? Like, did you hear it right away? Like, oh, this should be, this kind of drum beat, and I'm going to divide it up like this, or did you play around with it, test it?
No, it's just messing with it. I don't know. For this thing, I think I just wanted some kind of sound on the offbeat because it's supposed to be like a little drop. And I don't know, the breath just kind of worked. It's very subtle. You barely even hear it, so I don't even know if it was worth doing. But this sound I definitely really like. Like, it's just, I don't know, this is the thing I do a lot, is have like a very tonal, like even melodic sound just play on every snare or every offbeat. Just adds more, a lot of my music is very kind of drum focused and rhythmic, so having anything tonal be part of that kind of helps make it feel a bit more musical. And so, yeah, this sound is literally just from, I think, the instrumental of the original song. Or no, maybe it's actually from, I can't even remember what it is. It might just be audio that I recorded out of one of these synths. I think it is recorded out of one of the synths because it's so distorted. I think it was that whistle sound I played earlier. And then I've got, this track is just another like riser and effects track. And this is something I do a lot. This is an audio file, like a really long audio file of stuff I recorded out of some synth, I think. I can't even remember how I made these sounds, right? It's just crazy kind of sound design. I'll do that a lot where I'll just record a ton of that stuff and then save it and just bring it into other projects and use it. It's got this echo on it and an auto pan and that same flanger effect just to make it really wide and just kind of a crazy transition sound. Okay, trying to get through this stuff quicker to kind of just take questions because I haven't even shown the vocals. There's just some other little effect sounds. That's basically it for the drums. Yeah, just this little riser sound as well. Yeah, the main thing I guess here to take away is just like switching out, have a lot of different sounds, even though it's a simple beat, like just have a lot of different options and kind of switch them out throughout the song. Okay, so that's the whole instrumental, basically. Those are all the sounds in it, anyway. And yeah, this song is very weird because I was making it very quickly for the show I was playing, so I didn't really spend a lot of time. I just kind of asked each artist to send me a verse, and most of them didn't even send me like stems or anything. They just sent me one file. Some of them sent me stems, but this is just the acapella of the original song.
3 bands on me, walking around the store, I boxy.
Plays just basically unedited. In bits of it, I have an isotope trash kind of distortion on it, and I also have this classic Waves plugin, CLA vocals on it, which a lot of people hate because it just kind of makes things very easy. It just has a few different sliders and has a compressor and whatever in it. It's made by like some famous engineer in Waves. It's like kind of like a cheating plugin, but it just helps to. It's not even doing that much on this one, but I'm just using the compressor section of it just to make it really, really loud and upfront.
Do you worry about cheating plugins that are just too easy?
Oh, not at all. It's more that sometimes those ones don't give you enough control, and then I have to switch over and try and recreate the same sound in other plugins so I can have more options. But that usually is a nice quick thing to use. I don't really use it on like a lot of final songs, but again, I made this song very quickly, and so it just made it sound better. So I used it. This is one of the acapellas from a different person's verse. I was just using as like an effect in the beginning. I have the original song here just with the instrumental to reference. It's muted, but you can see I have this tuner on here because I was trying to figure out what was going on in the original, and you can see every bass note is totally out of tune. So it's just funny that like I had to like mess with this song to figure out how to actually remix it. Okay, yeah, I don't even know if it's worth going through every artist's vocals because most of them I didn't even kind of mix. Some of them just sent me one single track and I barely did anything to it. Like this one just has an EQ on it.
Yeah, 3 bands, that's on me. Yeah, I walk around the store off an oxy.
This is very kind of disjointed and maybe not how I'd normally work on a song, but again, I was doing it very, very quickly. So I don't even have a lot of kind of vocal processing stuff in here because each artist basically sent me just vocals and I did very minimal stuff to kind of make it fit in. This plugin is really useful. Soothe just kind of automatically finds harsh frequencies and tames them. So you can kind of see what it's doing. And again, what's interesting about this song also is the vocal is very weirdly processed, right? It has a bit crusher on it.
3 bands on me. Walking around the store, I boxy.
It like intentionally sounds bad, it's actually ericdoa. It's like alter ego kind of project. Like it's not even his, so he has this like weird effect on it. It's supposed to sound very lo-fi and strange. And so a lot of the other artists kind of tried to mimic that effect. And I did that myself to some of the people who didn't do that. To try and make them fit in, so like here's Lewis Grant's verse, which I think I did actually kind of mix. And it has this, again, make it using an audio effect rack to kind of mix it together, but I have this bit crusher on it. This is a kilohertz bit crusher, it just sounds a little bit nicer and has more options than the Ableton one.
Zombie flashlight, dude, no head, no color ready. It's all red like I'm dante.
You can hear it intentionally sound, bad. It sounds like very compressed audio. That's what it does. It's like compression.
Drop some hits.
Compressing like the file quality, but I was trying to mix it in and actually make it sound good. I can maybe go through this vocal because I did actually kind of mix it. There's just two tracks. One is like a main and a background.
That's me. Everybody's late to the party. Big.
It's got just auto-tune on it. I didn't have the real like auto-tune plugin for a while, but now I do. So this is just auto-tune by Antares at like a very, very fast speed. A kind of a gate just to cut out noise. And again, that CLA vocal plugin, just like, it also has a very nice kind of chorusing thing at the very end here. It's just called stereo here, and I have that up pretty high in this one. Again, yeah, it just has like everything in one, so it's very quick, and I was trying to get this done quick. So both of those tracks individually have those on them, and then yeah, another gate, because this plugin is kind of annoying. It kind of outputs noise sometimes when you have the compressor really high, so I have to gate that noise back out to make it cleaner. And then I've got that bit crusher on it, and then at the very end I have, this is like something I only use now because I'm going to music school and they convinced me that like you need to have this VC76 type compressor on all your vocals because it makes it sound good. And I don't even know if that's really true, but I was just trying it out because again, I have like, I don't even own these. I have all the Waves plugins kind of illegally, but it's fun to just try out like new ones to see if they're any good.
zombie. Big break, big brain, no zombie flash.
It's not doing that much, you can see, but it is like a compressor, and it's modeling this famous BC76 analog compressor, which is just like every audiophile or whatever, every music professor will tell you is very good for vocals.
Sorry, waiting only for.
It's barely doing anything. It's just kind of making it even more compressed and kind of full. And I have the same soothe too on it. That's cutting out kind of harsh
What is
frequencies.
the red high thing? Is that an EQ, or is that meaning at that frequency it works more on that soothe window?
It works more here, so it's doing more
at that frequency. And
yeah,
you picked that, or it decided automatically it should do more at that frequency?
No, you pick these, and then it automatically.
I'd like Jedwell's videos in a.
You can see within there, it automatically picks stuff. And this is actually a preset in here called vocal harshness. So it's just that's a frequency where vocals are often harsh. So it just kind of, and you can see this depth knob is pretty low. It's not doing that much. It's just doing a little bit. Yeah. Okay. What's time? I mean, I can probably just kind of take specific questions now, just because like
why not?
The vocals are pretty like not even done by me. I just kind of threw them in here, you know.
How did you end up being the mastermind who got to put everyone together on this song?
Oh, it was just me asking people. It was just kind of an idea of like, first I just wanted to remix the song for this Halloween show because it's like just a good song and it's, you know, has the word zombie in it. And then I was just talking to some of the people. I had just met both Eric and this guy SEBii in New York. It was like one of the only music sessions I'd done this year that I met them. And so I just asked him like, oh, do you want to do a verse on this? And he's like, yeah, definitely. And then he actually like posted it on his Twitter. Like he posted just like a recording of it. And it was just like, people just got very excited about it and started like asking. And so, yeah, I just ended up getting a lot of these kind of people from this, I don't know, hyperpop type scene. Some of the verses are also people had already done remixes of this song because it's a pretty well-known song. And so I just asked them to send an acapella of their verse. So like this one by kmoe was originally just done on the original instrumental. It wasn't even done for my remix, but I just asked if I could use it. Same goes for savepoint. This was already like made. This is actually only half of his remix. He did like a full song length remix with another verse, but I just used one of his verses. Yeah, it was totally just me asking these people that I know, and kind of once I started getting a few people, I was like, okay, let me just try and get as many people as possible. And it was obviously very like time constrained. So it was only the people that responded in time kind of had time to do it. But yeah, it was all done super, super quickly.
All right, any questions out there? Just go ahead, ask away. Turn on your microphones and speak.
Hey everybody, hi Umru. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Hey.
I just have one quick question about terms of music and networking. In this day and age, everyone's inside. You know, live performances kind of been on a halt, and it's kind of been harder for new artists to meet other artists. How do you find other artists over the internet and collaborate with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something I've just always done long before, you know, COVID and being quarantined. Like it's just the main way I've worked with anybody, honestly, has been online, just because like, you know, I didn't grow up somewhere where there's a lot of people. I mean, I was close to New York City, but still I was like, you know, in a small town. So mostly I was just online talking to people since like, you know, years ago. And obviously like some of these people I've known for ages, like Lewis Grant, or yeah, Tony Velour, like some of these people I've just kind of been friends with for a long time. But a lot of these people that are on this remix I didn't even know about until this year. And it was just sort of like being on, I guess, yeah, I don't know, like SoundCloud and Twitter, and just like, I don't even know how I found out about a lot of these people, just I think from my friends like recommending me like check out this like random person. Like some of these people really don't have a lot of followers, you know, or they're just kind of becoming well known this year. And it was just kind of like paying attention to all these different music scenes and like, yeah, I don't even know. I don't have a good answer, but basically just I've always kind of been online talking to people. Like that's the main way I've worked with musicians. Like I haven't even worked in person with that many people. And like, obviously it's easier for me when like I do have some amount of following and I already have, you know, some well-known music and stuff, but like I know so many of the people making this kind of music, a lot of these kind of like rap influenced kind of hyper pop type artists, like there's so many people in the scene that are like not very well known, and then the ones that are very well known are just like, you know, they've only become kind of well known recently, and so it's not like especially hard to reach out to anyone. It's not like you just kind of, I don't know, say hi to people. Like I don't know, I don't have a great answer, but like that is the main way I've always worked with people, even before the pandemic. Just like, I mean, literally just like following people and reaching out and like sharing their music and being like, this is cool, and then they'll be like, thank you, and then you just, yeah, I don't know, like it's a lot of just like reaching out, and a lot of people I reach out to just don't respond, and that's, you know, fine as well. Yeah, with this song, it definitely helped that I was remixing this like very well-known song in this scene. Like it wasn't just my own track I was trying to get people on. It was like, oh, this is like a tribute to this really good song that everyone loves. So it was very like easy to get people on board with this, I think, compared to like maybe just anything else. Yeah, I don't know. Any other questions?
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, cool. Hey, Umru, first of all, thank you for the breakdown. It was really awesome, and all the sound design tips. And also congrats on this year. This is probably a huge year for you guys and all of the hyperpop scene, even like it infiltrating onto the Rico Nasty album. I heard Gex production on the Rico Nasty album, and I was like, wow, it's like really infiltrating, and it's starting to, I feel like it's just getting started for you guys, because you guys have your little like your scene, but it's like really infiltrating into something huge, which is awesome. So congrats on all that stuff. But I wanted to ask you, when you're like designing sounds, especially like all these blown out, super saturated, distorted sounds, where do you like, how does that affect your mixing process, and how does that like, maybe like I also wanted to ask about ear fatigue, because like all these blown out sounds, like they really like take a toll on your ears, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do listen to stuff too loud, but it also is, it's almost like better for that in a way, because if
Right.
you have very subtle sounds and like a lot of stuff that's very quiet, you end up turning it up a lot, and then like, I don't know, I actually end up listening to really distorted, blown out stuff quieter because it's so like punchy and loud that you could turn it down and it still sounds, you know, loud. Which is, I guess, part of this whole sound that I do. Like, I think I do, I just want stuff to sound good out of anywhere. Like if you're playing it out of a phone speaker and so on, like so many people are listening to music, like if it's distorted and loud and just in your face, then it probably will sound good coming out of wherever. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely probably should be listening to stuff quieter. But yeah, I don't think like it's not a direct correlation between like loud, distorted sound design and the music actually, and listening to it loud. Like it can be very distorted and then actually be quiet. And that's
quiet.
I mean, in this song, definitely things are very loud, but I do definitely like using distortion just as an effect without actually making things loud. Like the one sound in here, it's pretty subtle, but the whistling sound, really like
this sound is really cool when you broke it down.
Yeah,
this is an omnisphere sound or a reactor sound. Sorry.
This is a omnisphere, like sampled whistling, actual like whistling sample from sound of a child whistling in church, and then yeah, it's very quiet in the mix, but it has this distortion on it, so it has these weird kind of tones that come up. I guess it's not even that distorted, but still, like that kind of idea is still fun to use. Like,
oh, can I ask how you use the Wolf compressor on that? I missed it. Wolf compressor is super awesome. I love Wolfpack.
Yeah, I didn't actually open this. It's kind of funny. It's made by Wolfpack.
Yes, love Wolfpack, dude.
It's just a really like intense compressor, and it also has this nice like lo-fi knob, which kind of, again, makes things sound a bit low, and this wow, which kind of makes things not quite in tune. Yeah, I mean, I actually use this a lot more on like quiet sounds rather than loud sounds, to just have them feel very even, so they kind of cut through the mix enough to be heard even though they're quiet.
This shit's too easy.
Wait, is someone drawing on the screen? I'm not doing that.
You are. It's you.
It's me. I literally didn't draw that stuff.
It's Wolf. The Wolf is drawing.
Did you draw it?
Not me.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's yeah. I mean, I don't even use this that much, but when I use it mostly for this one specific thing because it's just so good at like compressing things almost like totally flat. And it has these nice lo-fi and like effect knobs, and it's also just so simple. Like it has this advanced window, but I barely even use that. You just turn up the compression and the like these things, and it's just like instantly will sound pretty loud, so you can kind of have it tucked behind stuff because it's so even and compressed.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Anything
Thank
else?
you. Yeah, thank you for.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess I have another question if nobody else has anything to ask.
Yeah, go for it.
When you're designing sounds, like, is it like, obviously it changes sound to sound, and it's, it's a lot of experimenting and seeing what sounds good and what doesn't. But like, would you say that you have like, because you have this great background in music knowledge, and do you like, basically what I'm trying to say is, do you have to know the rules to break them?
I definitely don't have a great background in music. Like I'm not. Again, I am going to music school,
Right.
or yeah, like sonic arts school, which I'm basically almost done with now. But so I mean, it doesn't hurt, to know things, obviously, but it's definitely like not something I'm especially well versed in it before breaking rules. Like
Right.
I don't know, like now more than ever, there's not like very, it's not clear what the rules are. Like there's so many things that are
That's
supposed to be
true.
important classically in kind of music and audio engineering that like literally all these kids on this song are like not using, and they probably never learned that stuff, and they're just making very loud, distorted, like clipped or like just messed up sounding songs, and they're getting on Spotify
Sounds good.
playlists. And yeah, it's like it doesn't hurt to know stuff, but it's not the end of the world. Like I'm sure I know a lot of these artists on this song are like younger than me, and like really like this is kind of the first music they're even making, and it's just totally crazy sounding and it's sick. I don't know. I mean, that's not a very clear answer, I guess, but
No, it definitely answers it. If it sounds good, it sounds good, right?
yeah.
Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, people got mad at Beethoven for breaking rules like parallel fifths. And
Oh yeah,
said,
of
like,
course. Like
parallel
always. Like,
fifths? You say they're forbidden? Well, I allow them.
yeah, I mean, I'm not even doing it like any musically speaking. This is such a simple song. The melodies are just very like, normal major key melodies and stuff. But the fun stuff is coming from the sound design and the just kind of vocal style of it. I think it's very like musically speaking a simple song, but it's a very beautiful song. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even write obviously the music. Like I added some new melodies, but this is based off of the original song, of course, which I didn't produce.
Momo says, where do you get your kits?
I have a Splice subscription, which is where I get a lot of sound. But at this point, I also just have built up a big library of sounds. And like, especially now, I'm coming back to like the most simple sounds rather than anything crazy. Like these like claps that are or these open hats. This is probably just an 808 sample, or not that, but the hat sound wherever it is. But and like that clap is like the most simple possible clap. But I think a lot of the new sounds that I do get that I'm not making are from Splice, just because it's so easy to search, snare and then get like a fun new sound I hadn't had before. Within those, because they have like a little desktop app that you can search for sounds in. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the like weirder sounds in here are made by me just like messing around, designing, synth sounds, and then just kind of using bits of that as percussion or just effects. But yeah, I definitely think kind of having a Splice subscription is pretty fun just to get new sounds.
Yeah, I've definitely used your sounds before.
Like,
thank you.
rather than like buying a sample pack. I haven't done that in a long time because it's Splice, you can just preview all the sounds.
Favorite Splice kit that isn't your own?
Good question. I think the decap ones are very good.
Yeah.
I don't even know how he makes them, but I think he's using a lot of drum machines and just like crazy, just and like distortion and transient
right.
processing. He like makes very very simple and like very audible and clear like drum sounds that just work. I mean, he has like 10 packs or whatever, but he definitely has good ones. Yeah, well, cool.
How often do you use drum sounds like, or many layers on one sound with more velocity? It's a totally different sound.
Never, I guess, because I'm not really. I mean, I'm not even using MIDI drums most of the time. I'm generally just putting these kind of samples in because I have more control. That doesn't mean there's not like velocity. You know, like this hat loop has different, different sounds in it. But like I more often than not, I'm using audio and not really doing like playing it with MIDI or worrying about velocity too much. But yeah, like what's like literally instead of using any kind of velocity control or anything, this specific sound, the snare that I have the snare playing the main backbeat, this sound. And then the offbeats, these like little percussions are made out of the same exact sample, like I said, that it sounds like it's a lower velocity, right? Because it's like less intense, and I'm just cutting off the beginning of the sound. Like that's a cool way to make it sound like kind of a bit more real because it's the same exact sound, but it sounds less intense because I'm only playing the tail of it. I don't know, some stuff like that is what I do a lot. And then also just literally putting in real drum sounds like that breakbeat is like a fun way to switch it up. So it's obviously been done in electronic music forever, but yeah.
Sorry, I have one more question, Umru.
Yeah.
Your files seem to be really CPU intensive. Do you have any tips on?
Oh yeah. Like I showed here, like I mean, I haven't done it with everything, but a lot of these contact sounds, because those take up a lot of just having all those sounds loaded. The sampler takes up memory, and so I just have that converted into audio, just frozen into audio, and then I think, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised I didn't do more of that on this track, but that's like the main thing to do, I think.
Do you play with sends at all in your workflow?
Not a ton. You can see there's one here actually. I have this echo send just for the vocals, I think. It's not even on that many vocals, but it's just a very simple like echo. I think it plays at the end here. Yeah, it's just like a long echo that goes at the end of the song. Yeah. Someone said, could we hear a beat with reverb? You mean like a different track, or you mean like, what do you mean? There definitely is reverb in here. Not a lot of it, but there's a lot of small kind of room reverb. Wait, what do you mean though? Like, just hear a different beat I've done that you like? I don't know. I've definitely have like reverb on some of these sounds, but yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you mean. Yeah, I guess this is a relatively dry song in terms of like reverb and effects. Like I have that one echo that comes in a little bit, but a lot of the vocals are very dry compared to like normal kind of vocal processing for like this kind of music. I don't have a lot of delays or reverbs. Because it honestly makes it easier to mix that way and it doesn't get kind of full and muddy.
When you have like sample packs that have beats with reverb loops, is there a special way on beats where reverb is handled so it's more useful, or is it they generally kept off as much as possible?
I generally hate when samples have a lot of reverb. I mean, even my own, I do have sounds with reverb, but if it's like a very like part of the sound design, if the drum is like supposed to be really wide and roomy sounding, then that's like one thing. But like just having like general normal reverb on sounds in like loops or just sounds don't usually sound good. Just they're less usable.
Right.
I mean, less so for maybe like melodies and stuff, but even then, like if it's a loop, it's always going to cut off weird if it's looping. It has reverb in it, but definitely for like sounds that are in the back of the mix, like all these melodic sounds, some of them probably have reverb. This one in the synth has a good, pretty short size reverb within the synth and stuff. Definitely for sounds like drums and like, and even all the lead vocals don't really have any kind of effects like that on them, just to be really kind of upfront and clean and not muddy. But there's definitely reverb on some of these things, This whistling sound has a huge reverb on it just in the plugin. Even here has that really long decay, but it's this kind of atmospheric thing in the back, so it's less of a problem. It's not very
Is
loud.
that the most panned sound in this whole mix? Like it's really
Maybe,
100%
yeah.
back and
That one
forth.
really does go back and forth. It's so quiet, and it just,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it kind of makes it less predictable. I mean, some of the vocals are really panned, like the way Eric, the original song, mixes these vocals. He has these harmonies that are all the way on the left and right, and they're different on the left and right.
This I must admit, baby, I can. I can touch the skies that I can do. I can feel
Like it's really thick, and like there's like
Yeah.
4 layers on there sometimes with different harmonies, and it's very like kind of erratic. It's kind of fun. And so some of these artists have tried to replicate that as well. Like
because you always haunt me.
you can hear that really high layer and stuff. Or like Dollywood has like so many layers of vocals.
Lately niggas been treating me like a dummy. Pop this piggy, so I'm moving like a zombie. Steady talking.
Yeah. They're very, they're not like traditionally well mixed vocals a lot of the time. They're just kind of whatever these people think sounds good, and it's cool, This one was recorded on a phone, on an iPhone microphone.
3 bands on me. 10% tan like the oxy. Emotegi per K at the got me. Like a cutie.
It's like, it doesn't sound that good, but in the song, it doesn't sound that bad.
3 bands on me. 10% tan like the oxy. Emotegi per K.
Especially this high layer sounds really good. The beginning sounds the worst.
3 bands on me. 10% off like the oxy.
He sang it like with distortion on it already too, but it's just cool to know that that's recorded, on a phone. Just because his mic wasn't working.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you do anything with the panning to try and build a stereo image, or are you just using it to kind of jump back and forth and create space?
I definitely have some things panned. More often than not, I'm using like either a small reverb that's really wide, or those like that flanger effect or choruses to kind of make things wide, rather than having something on one side and another thing on the other. I'm often just, it's honestly more lazy to do this, but I'm just putting an effect on it that makes the whole sound wide and kind of come from both sides for some of these. I guess, yeah, not too many of them, but yeah, like the breakbeat has that really resonant like flanger that makes it pretty wide, or like, yeah, usually most songs I probably do more panning, whereas like one sound is just totally on one side. Like in the drums, for example, I'll have the little rim shot go like to the side, but in this one, almost everything is in the center, but that doesn't mean it's just in the center, because a lot of the sounds are very kind of stereo, just within the sound. But yeah, I think I do like to do a lot of, just because I'm almost always listening to music in headphones, so I just kind of like it when sounds feel wide and around you. Like even this kick with the flanger on it just sounds like it's like kind of hugging your ears a bit more than if it's just totally centered. I don't know. That's obviously like not even good mixing for like playing music in clubs and anywhere where there's a sub playing the bass, but like I sometimes pay attention to stuff like that. Like I do have that high pass thing on here that helps, but like a lot of the time, especially now, everyone is listening to music at home, usually in stereo, so like why not make it sound really cool in stereo when you're using headphones or whatever.
Have you done anything with surround mixing? I know that's a more niche thing, but
not in my music, just because it's not really something anyone is listening to. Like no one is playing music in surround sound, but at school I have to do that in the middle of some like movie projects where we're mixing stuff in surround sound, and we kind of have to do it at home, which is interesting. But yeah,
how do you go about doing that?
Oh, that's like, yeah, for school I'm using Pro Tools and Dolby Atmos, because they have a way to kind of simulate what it sounds like in headphones. But yeah, I wouldn't make sense to really do anything like that on any music I'm releasing, because like where is anyone going to hear that in surround sound? Like it's much more important for me for my music to sound good for like the majority of people listening to it. I don't know. It's a cool thing that,
Yeah,
at some point when like movies and movie theaters are more, in use, like it's definitely a great tool. Like it obviously makes movies sound amazing, but it's like in general, music more than anything else is just listened to everywhere, and so you want it to sound good everywhere. Yeah, well, I've got to go in a bit, so like any last questions, I'll definitely answer, but I do have to head out.
Any final questions?
I'm good.
These ad libs on the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I was just saying I think I'm good.
Oh yeah. These just gonna show this on Tony Velour's verse. I was actually trying to copy what, because he usually works with Dylan Brady a lot from 100 Gex, who has a very specific way of processing this guy's specific vocals, where he has these like ad libs that are very like gated and chopped. And so I was trying to like literally just trying to copy that, but that's like a fun sound.
What do you mean you don't like me?
They're like super panned, you know, if we were talking about panning.
How are they ad libs? Like,
They're not even ad libs. They're just chops of the original vocal,
Right.
because he didn't record ad libs. He only recorded one vocal take. So it's the same. It's this, you know. I mean, and that's also just kind of a big thing in this kind of hyper pop scene, I guess, is the stuttering vocals. But I tried not to overdo that, because that is like a whole thing. But
I still bet on my.
yeah, this was kind of fun to make fake ad libs, because he says "yeah," you know, in somewhere in the verse, and I was just adding that in here just to like fill space.
We gonna let you score and take the lead. This game ain't.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of fun to make it. I was literally just trying to kind of copy what his vocals sound like in other songs, but fun technique, I guess. If you don't have ad libs, you can just take little chops of the actual vocal.
that's what you can do with James Brown whenever
Yeah.
you know it goes back. Well, thanks so much for skipping out of your own class and coming to join us.
I don't have class right
appreciate
now,
that.
but yeah, actually have work.
Yeah, and so yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Everyone go listen to the whole song. It's worth listening to. Like it deserves all the attention it's getting, and it just shows how you can get many people collaborating, and what the mastermind behind the idea was up to, and how you can make it all fit together, and that there isn't any right or wrong, because there's always some way to take a technique designed for one thing and twist it in some other direction to get the effect you want.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Umru.
Thanks a lot. The rest of us
Yeah.
will stay on and finish our last 15 minutes of class. So thanks a lot.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right. Sorry it took us this long to figure out we should have used Zoom from the beginning, because the sound is so much better. But I apologize for that.
No worries.
Never, you got to do this for next semester for your next classes, right?
Yeah, next semester I'm off. I'm on sabbatical. So
Wow, that's great. That's good.